Yeah, it's just something that will go down in memory as a, wow, that was fun. Yeah, that's really weird. But you know what? The fact that that happened, that could really be helpful someday. You know, I mean, it could matter at some point because we know, I think at least some of us know what to do now. The answer is that little keypad out there, and I don't know if the fire department has to come turn that off. Is that the deal? They have to come do it. So that is really, really amazing. And what? Oh, yeah, the fire department? Stick around? Yeah. Do some funny fire songs. Okay. Now, that song that I was almost finished with, just a little soul hanging out in space. Here's the challenge for me as an entertainer. I've never had to start over in the middle of it. But I'm not going to put you through it again. It's too long. So I'm going to try to come up with where I was. So so he could laugh. God looked at me with a puzzled brow, shook his head and just said, "Holy cow." For a minute he stood there, pulling his beard, and then he said, "Kid, you're pretty darn weird. And I know you're just playing the fool, but this time, kid, the joke's on you." And then he grinned at me and he yelled, "Shazam!" And that's my story, and here I am. Well, it's kind of anticlimactic. But I'm glad you could relate. Maybe some of you got here the same way. You know, Will Rogers said when you find yourself in a hole, first thing is stop digging. Yeah. It's just really right, really true. You know, we do have to be aware of what we're thinking about all day because it does tend to show up the more we think about it. The good news about that is if we own that, if we take responsibility for our lives, there's power there. There's hope there. Because if I'm the problem in my life, I'm also what? A problem in everyone else's life. Let me ask you this. How many of you have heard of a painter, an artist, named Donald Roller Wilson? Nobody. Okay, me neither. But I read about him in the Airline magazine. Donald Roller Wilson has this unique niche. All he paints are these beautiful, gothic, detailed pictures of animals like chimps, cats, dogs, dressed up in clothes, doing bizarre things, playing with floating pickles, things like this. And they're just spectacular. He sells these pictures for amazing amounts of money. A-list celebrities buy them. So he's doing okay. The reason I cut this article out of this magazine and saved it is because he has a quote in this article that I just love, and I've memorized it. And he says, "It takes all the arrogance out of everything you do when you know that God is so much bigger than you are. And yet, everything you are and do and see is filled with God. The trees, the asphalt, the people fighting over Aquanet at Walmart." He said, that sounds silly, but silliness is just as important as love, just as important as tragedy. You can make a profound intellectual statement just by basing your efforts on silliness. Well, I agree completely. Now, some of you probably, maybe all of you have seen this Robin Williams movie 20-some years ago, Patch Adams. Remember this movie? And has anybody here besides me had the opportunity to see the real Patch give a talk, online or in person? Because the real Patch is just as crazy as Robin Williams in his own way. I mean, he doesn't look like he's tall. He's 6'7", and he's very thin. He's got long gray hair down to mid-thigh, usually half-dyed purple or blue. And he dresses like a clown every day. He's a medical doctor who's a clown doctor. He's figured out that clowning and playfulness are the ways that he can inflict love and compassion on the people he meets every day. So this is what he does. This is who he is. He's almost finished building the first silly hospital in the world, the Gesundheit Institute. It's in West Virginia. You can Google it. You can go there. You can volunteer there. Everything's free. There's no fee for service at Gesundheit. So I've been around Patch a lot, various conferences, and I've seen the effect that he has. This is one person being silly in a profound way who's created this wave that ripples all over the world in healthcare and wellness. It's really something. Well, one of the things he says, I've heard him say this a few times, is that he feels like the world is wallowing in misery. And that one of the most radical things you can do is to have a good day. Well, that's not radical to us in Unity. We teach that. But let me ask you this. We all know that life is serious. We forget. We can turn on the news for 2 minutes and get reminded how serious life is. But is there anybody here today besides me who's ever had the particular gift or talent of making life even more serious than it already is? Because I can forget everything in 10 seconds and revert. It happens not that often anymore, but it does happen. I just forget. I revert. So I wrote a song about this for myself. Now you can see if this applies to you or helps you in any way. It's very simple. It's called Worry. It's called Writer's Block, or the long-term positive and negative effects of worry. All right, here we go. I was worried about not writing any songs. No words, nothing for way too long. I was worried I'd never write again. Maybe there was no more ink in my pen. And I thought about that, and I began to feel ashamed. I was ashamed that I'd been worried about not writing. I've been through droughts before and come out fighting. Seemed like my worry was out of control. I was ashamed about it down to my soul, and then it hit me what I was doing, and I started feeling guilty. I was guilty that I could let myself feel shame over something so insignificant as this writing game. I thought I'd released that stuff long ago, and I felt guilty that I had such a long way to go, and then I realized what I was doing, and I got embarrassed. I was embarrassed that my shame could make me feel guilty. All these negative thought patterns, man, it was silly. If someone could see inside my head, they'd give me a drug and put me to bed. Yeah, I was embarrassed. That made me mad. I was angry that I could be so immature. I was angry at me, down on myself for sure. And as my anger turned into resentment, I thought about what the long-term effects of that meant, and I realized what I was doing to my body, and I began to feel afraid. I was afraid that what I was doing to myself. All these negative emotions affecting my health. If body and mind are so interconnected, my shame, guilt, worry, and fear were making me infected. And I was afraid that I was becoming depressed. And as I began to sink into depression, the effect on my body and mind became an obsession. The outcome of this could not be in doubt. It gave me something new to worry about. I knew that I might not be around for too long, so I wrote it all down and I had a new song. When I thought about that, I was fine again. Thank you. I was cracking up during that song because holding these little muff biscuits left just enough oil on my hand that I was sliding all over the place. I never had this experience before. There's a lot of firsts going on here today. But I was like, what? Yeah. I'm over it. Good question, though. Very good question. I did feel embarrassment. I was embarrassed that something might happen. Oh, God. Anyway, all right. So that's a very silly song, you know, but there's a lot of joy in that. There's a lot of joy in taking something troublesome and limiting and restrictive and turning it inside out or upside down and having fun with it. And so you take all the charge off of it. It's not such a big deal anymore. So we're reframing with humor. That's what both those songs actually about reframing difficult situations with humor so that they don't control me anymore. Now I have control. They're not so overwhelming. It's a handy thing to practice. And worry is the enemy of joy, because if we're worried, are we in this moment? No, where are we? Past, future, yeah. But we're not here. We're not here. And the thing is, it's okay to look at the past and the future. Just don't stare. We get in the habit of staring. We get a lot of encouragement from our culture to do this, to stare at the past and the future. And it's just so fruitless, most of it. So Mel Brooks talks about this. I saw him on 60 Minutes, and he said, you know, Socrates told us it's good to know thyself. He said, but I've learned it's way better to now thyself. Now thyself. He said, we need more people living in the now, like this is our last day. Every day's our last day. Which is why I never have clean clothes, because who wants to do laundry on the last? Well, silliness, play, laughter, humor, these are great ways to now thyself. These are great ways to stop staring at the past and the future and just come back to the joy of this moment, this present moment, and open that gift. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is where? And to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child. So simple. So simple. We knew this when we were 4 years old. Every 4-year-old knows this, but we forget. I tell you what, I have a 3-second demonstration that will make this point. Really, 3 seconds is all it is, and it doesn't take any talent or preparation or anything. Just give yourself permission to be a 4-year-old for 3 seconds. That's all you have to do. When I say go, I want you to turn and look at somebody, it does not matter who, and for 3 seconds, have a contest to see who can make the weirdest face. Ready? Go. 3 seconds. Get weird. Let it out. Okay, good. So I'm willing to bet for those 3 seconds, nobody in here was thinking about their mortgage. For those 3 seconds, nobody was worried about the divorce papers or the test results or anything else. We're just here. We're just in that love and that fun, and that's what silliness does. It brings us back to now, to the present. If you grow up serious like I did, it's okay to practice. It's okay to give yourself reminders. People ask me all the time, they'll say, Greg, you know, I am busy, and I am a little serious, and what's the best way to do this and have more fun, more silliness? And I'll say, well, you know, the best way I know, for me anyway, is this long-standing comedic technique of not giving a serious answer to any question that doesn't absolutely require it. And once you practice this, you realize that almost no question requires a serious answer the first time. I mean, you know, the fireman coming in, yes, that's a question. Where is the fire alarm? Yeah, okay. But most of the time, you can have fun. So people will say, okay, well, how do I get started doing that? I'll say, well, what's the question you get asked most often, all day long? And what is it? How are you doing? How are you? And what do we say? Fine. Sometimes we even go as far as great or fantastic. Well, what if instead of that, somebody says, how you doing? You say, well, I'm still getting away with it. How you doing? Parts of me are excellent. How you doing? My lawyer said not to answer that. How you doing? Good, I'm out on a day pass. How you doing? My tattoos are spreading. How you doing? You can see me? Well, what I suggest is just get 2 or 3 answers to that question that you like, put them in your mental back pocket, and bring them out all day long. See what works for you with strangers, with friends, and whatever situation. Just see what you feel comfortable with, what works. And, you know, if those don't work, then get some more and try those. But the point is you're having fun. You're giving yourself a chance to be playful. I'll give you an example of how this can work. I got on Southwest Airlines to fly home from Florida to Kansas City. And, you know, when you get on Southwest, you always board in the galley. And there's always a flight attendant there to make sure you don't turn left into the cockpit, because they don't want you in there. They want you to go that way, to the seats. So I'm getting on board, and the flight attendant said, this lovely gal, and she says, welcome aboard. How you doing? I said, I'm hungry. Steak and lobster for lunch? She thought that was really funny. She said, sure. How do you like your steak? I said, rare. And she said, well, that's good, because any steak on this airline would be extremely rare. And I said, well done. I don't know what this did for her, but it changed my whole day. I went up a whole level. And every time she came down the aisle, we'd look at each other and kind of grin or giggle. And so I knew we had this connection we created out of thin air, this fun thing that only the 2 of us. It's like this little club that we're only members. And just, you know, when you feel something like that happens, it sort of affects everybody else that you interact with, because you're in a new level. So it's not, if you try this out, it's not always going to be a home run like that. But sometimes it will. And sometimes it'll just be kind of fun. And anyway, it doesn't matter, as I said before, you're giving yourself permission to be playful. And this is especially true if you grow up serious. You know, I have a theory about this. You don't have to buy this. But my theory is that the reason so many of us are serious and stressed, you know, we live in a stressful culture, right? The U.S. of stress, or as my friend calls it, the Excited States of America. Why is that? Well, my theory partly is that we were colonized to a great extent by the Puritans. The Puritans, remember them? They were so serious, the English kicked them out. H.L. Mencken said that a Puritan is someone who's worried that somewhere, somehow, someone might be having a good time. Well, we all have a little of that Puritan DNA in our program, our cultural DNA. We all have that from living in this country. So it's okay to lighten up, to learn how to lighten up. You know, pretend you live in Jamaica or somewhere where you're dancing all the time. I don't know. Anyway, that's my prescription for today. I have some more ideas I can share with you later on today, but I also want to touch on the experience of the sacred real quickly. When I got into trouble, I got down in that black hole of despair, and I was so afraid I'd never get out of it. I was so afraid I would never have a good day again. I went back to reading Mystics, which is something I'd gotten away from for years, and I rediscovered these beautiful descriptions of the mystical experience of joining with God. And what I'm talking about here is merging your consciousness so totally with God that there's no little self left. Everything just becomes God. That's the experience. And the mystics of all traditions have written about this in very similar terms. Doesn't matter what century you go look at. Words like ecstasy, rapture, nirvana, enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, joy beyond description, ultimate bliss. These kinds of terms. Well, reading about these experiences really, really lifted me up because I felt like if it was possible for humans to live up there at that level, then it had to be possible for me to get up out of this hole so I could just keep going. So I'd like to just finish up with a little experience where we kind of go down that road just a little ways together with some music and some prayer. We're a little bit behind schedule, so I think we won't maybe do the whole singing thing. We can save that for later, but we can do a little meditation together, and I'll just play some music. And while I kind of warm up to this, I invite you to just relax. Get ready to be in the silence. Get ready to be higher consciousness. Close your eyes if that feels good. Let the chair support you. Let all your thoughts go away. Just let them disappear. Just pay attention to your breathing. Take a nice slow inhale. Nice slow exhale. Just give your attention to these words. Let all things be healthy. Let all things be peaceful. Be sure to count your blessings at least once a day. Forgive those who have hurt you and those who have offended you. But forgive yourself for that which you have done and for that you have failed to do. That which is done, there is no need to speak of. That which is past, there is no need to blame. Have self-control, self-knowledge, self-respect, and the courage to dare. Be tranquil. The light of intelligence will shine. And strive to make a spot where you stand beautiful. Then the beauty and harmony will follow you in all your days and in all your ways. On this journey we call life. Let's take another big, deep breath. Let our attention come back to the room. Feel the chair and the floor. And slowly open your eyes. Well, I hope that helped you feel present. That's what I hope. Listen, I was going to finish up with a song here, but I feel like we've kind of run over, and there's food back there and here. If you want a biscuit on your way out. Anyway, we have time this afternoon to do the songs I didn't do this morning, and so we'll do that. And I think it's time to have some offering language, and I'm going to stay up here and do the peace song to finish this off, and then afterwards I'll be back at my table. If you want to come share a hug or have a word or something, I'll be back there before going into the kitchen. Okay, Karen.